morning, good afternoon, wherever everybody is joining us from. We are back with another episode of MCC Conversation, and today's topic is the role of AI in education. We're all talking about artificial intelligence taking the world by storm. We are looking at young people, adults, everybody joining into the bandwagon and looking at ways in which they could have a slice of AI. AI is also taking over our lives in terms of whether we have to ask something, whether we have directions to take, the tools that we are using, specifically into the education sector, whether we're speaking about schools, colleges, or universities, we have a concept of generative AI in education, and we are seeing greater and greater implementation. And yes, there are risks associated as well. So, today's conversation at MCC Conversation, which is a series of webinars that we do and podcasts that we do in order to facilitate free CPD hours for the higher education, the further education, and the university community to have conversations that are impactful and that are going to start a thread of conversations that we need to have essentially. So today, I'm really pleased to invite Dr. Claire, who is here to share her experience. She is an academic, comes with a wealth of experience working into the higher education sector, and her and I will have a little conversation on how generative AI in education is shaping the way the higher education, the further education space is going to look like. Hi, Dr. Claire.
Hi, no. Hi.
So glad that you can do this for us today. So let us dive in to our conversation today. The recent Department for Education report, it says the DFE is doing a lot of research and a lot of work on how AI at every level of the education spectrum in the United Kingdom and beyond is shaping how educators are going to adopt AI. So let me ask you and ask your experience. In your experience, how often do you face AI in education?
All right, that's a very interesting question. So we all know that AI has actually changed a lot about the way we actually offer learning and how students also learn. In my experience, in my daily task, personally, I actually use AI. We've come to the stage where we've gone past the resistance phase, and now we're actually adapting and accepting that the use of AI is going to be a part of our lives going forward. So, in my daily experiences at work, I usually use AI for several tasks, and one of them has to do with developing educational resources. So, for example, I use it in uh, developing lesson plans. I also use it to help me in several administrative tasks, which has to do with, generating reports, meeting minutes, and also using it for quizzes, to make learning more creative and interactive for students. So in my daily work, I actually get to engage a lot with the use of AI. It's not like it replaces my thinking, but I use it to guide me and also have some suggestions as well on how to improve my learning practice and also my pedagogical strategies. Yeah.
That's really interesting. And what you're also saying is that it's actually aiding the kind of thought processes that one would expect from an academic. And as we know that in the education space, there are a lot of different hats that people have to wear, and one of those hats is essentially what you're talking about. All of the back end things that we have to do in terms of assessing resources, developing engaging activities, and what would initially, or I would say like historically, take a lot of time to just figure out and also cross check your own thinking process. Now it's getting easier and easier. But what about on the student front? So we speak a lot about how AI is changing, how the students are using it and consuming it. So what is your experience on that?
Yeah, on the student front, students are actually engaging a lot with AI. to be honest. Even if we put in place regulations that have to prohibit them from using it, we still have to keep in mind that they will still use it in our absence, even without supervision. So students use it a lot. And in my experience, okay, like in the classroom, when you give them activities to do, they usually like, use AI to have some suggestions. They use AI to develop their arguments. They use it to also develop report, right, when it comes to assessment writing. And but one of the things that we try to encourage students to do is to use this AI in a responsible manner, so
Yeah.
that it doesn't replace, the analytical side of having their assessment done, or even their critical thinking skills as well. So we try to guide them on ethical uses, and also help them to know what information to take from AI as well, because AI is not always accurate. So yes, students are actually engaging actively in AI, and it's something that we've come to accept.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I hear from you, and what also I'll make a reference to the DFE report as well, that the usage is eminent. So we have gone from 46%, and this I'm quoting a statistics from the DFE report, which we will make sure that we have available for our audience who are joining us live and who would be looking at it. But in terms of how it has changed the role of practitioners and how they have absorbed AI and taken it and started using it. So the ratio has gone from 14% to now 46% educators at the primary school level, the secondary school level, who are using and adopting generative AI mechanisms. And like you were saying, that it is a reiterative process. People are using it to develop their content as well. And then for the students and their analytical skills, let's speak about that, because like you were saying, that a lot of the demerits of using AI is where we are reducing how a student's analytical skills are going to build up over time. So what do you suggest, that if a student has to share an AI tool, what should he or she be looking at, and how should their learning change once they are looking at using an AI tool?
Yeah, so as you've mentioned, one of the downside of AI is actually in reducing how students use their own thinking to analyze things. And one of the things that works, right, is in helping them to use critical evaluation when using these tools. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, even before using the tool, we usually advise students to try to solve the problems on their own. So if it was a problem solving scenario, for example, that they were engaging in the classroom, so we'll advise them to solve the problem on their own first, then use AI and compare the results. So these also guides them um, into how they think around things. So we also try to discuss which response is more efficient. So students also try to see around their own thinking and how AI can also guide them with their thinking. And when it comes to classroom interactions like debates, for example, when we have debates and presentations, we usually encourage students to ask AI to guide them, in having maybe an opposite position to a topic. And this also helped them to build argumentation and also logical analysis. So these are some of the ways that we try to, guide them in using AI instead of, just being like passive consumers of the information that they get from them.
Absolutely, and that's such a wonderful, I think, a teaching methodology tool that you have also adopted, in terms of encouraging them that yes, use it, but then use it in a way in which it is more productive, and it aids your own decision making. We all know that there is AI also has this habit of imposter syndrome. You'd be asking it something else, and sometimes you'd get a complete response. Sometimes you won't even get the desired response that you are actually expecting, and that is where we go wrong with it, and that is where I think institutions need to develop such quality processes that it develops and it encourages the students also to look at it in a different light. Dr. Clay, now let's talk about inclusion, because a lot of the discussion around generative AI and using AI tools, and specifically in education, is that when we speak about the students who have particular learning disabilities, how can they essentially also use AI tools to in the classroom, and how can teachers facilitate their learning in the classroom if it's an AI tool that has to be used?
Okay, in this regard, AI has actually changed the way we deliver lessons, especially to students, right? So when it comes to accessibility, wait, before I even talk about that, AI has actually enabled us to have what we call, like just in time learning. So they're able to access information in time and get feedback almost immediately, if not immediately. So when it comes to accessibility, you have students who process information differently, they have different understandings of certain concepts. Some of them are quick to pick up concepts, while some are actually slower. So when it comes to AI, I believe AI has become more like a personal tutoring tool that helps students to identify their weaknesses and also their strengths and also areas in which they should improve, and even in giving suggestions on how students should improve, which could be quite a little bit challenging for a tutor who may be who may have like 30 students in the classroom.
Hmm.
So having that personal one-on-one sessions is actually a difficult task. So having AI, help you in understanding weaknesses of each and every student in time helps you to like, come up with intervention ways to help students to improve. And we also have students who might have disabilities, right? So AI is also a tool that would help you to um, maybe convert. AI is a tool that we can use to convert either text into audio or images into text. So these
Yeah.
also help students who have like disabilities to be able
Yes.
to catch up with the others who may be quicker in understanding lessons.
Absolutely. And I think just simple things like, just taking notes. That is also something that is a very simple thing, and that is something that can be picked up by students in the classroom. So when we speak about, like you're saying, like image building, that is also something that we could bring about. And we're talking about generic subjects and how technology is actually becoming more and more adoptive. And if we don't adopt the right tools, then there is also this fear that maybe in the long run of things, maybe in the race that we have to run against technology as human beings, we need to adopt and need to be at the same pace that with the technology is also growing. So let's talk about now how the online learning is becoming also very very prevalent. We see that a lot of providers are going, and even a lot of students and professionals looking at the worldly situation, looking at the economic situations. Now transnational education, online programs, they are increasingly becoming more and more popular. They're affordable as well, they're popular as well, and that is also something that shapes how the AI is integrated into the online learning platforms. So, what is your opinion, Dr. Claire? You've been into the academic side for a lot of years. The biggest, I would say, again, the con of going into an online degree is that people don't end up completing it. Some people are just better with being in a classroom, engaging, interacting with different students, interacting with their peers, and they don't get that feel and that vibe that they have to when they're in the classroom. So for online learning, we say that up to 80% people are unable to complete the courses or the online degrees or the online qualifications that they're doing. How can we ensure and use these AI tools to perhaps engage the students, specifically those who are doing these online programs?
All right. So when it comes to online learning, AI has actually also changed the way students engage with the lessons. And this is because, with distance learning, that face-to-face human interaction is missing. So when it comes to the use of AI too, AI actually helps in like personalized learning pathways. So with a tutor, not being present, it's easy to adapt difficulty levels when it comes to like learning outcomes or the pace of learning as well. Because people learn at different paces. So with distant learning, it's easy for someone to like personalize their own learning, right, at their own pace. Um, and also, some of the advantages of using AI in online learning is that it recommends also resources and also identifies learning gaps for students. And this also eases the path of the tutor as well, right, in guiding the student. And another thing is the ease in tracking engagement, right? So it's easy to find which students are actually engaging with the materials when we use AI. So in our institution, for example, when students engage with the materials, maybe just opening Blackboard or engaging in the quizzes or discussion boards, it's easy for the teacher to see at the end of the day which students were actively engaging with the lessons and which ones are not. So it's even more difficult with distant learning, right, to engage students actively. So some of these tools actually help tutors from a distance to know which students actually need support, because they might not come to you outrightly that they need extra support,
Absolutely.
tell you about their challenges. So with this, you're able to automatically know which students you should be talking to or have maybe some personal tutoring sessions with as well. And AI also would act as like virtual tutor. There are some studies that have actually experimented on that using AI as virtual tutors, though they also come with limitations because at the end of the day, we still need, the human-led factor when it comes to learning. And the fact that AI is able to give you instant feedback when you study or when you engage in distant learning is actually a plus, because when you have instant feedback as a student, it also supports continuous learning as well and helps you to know at what stage you are in your learning.
That's
Yes.
wonderful. I'm getting so many ideas now from you and from this discussion that absolutely. I mean, let's talk about, when we are speaking about learning outcomes, like you're saying, and learner progress also. There's so much that there's so many student tracking tools that are available that can essentially, help you in providing that kind of guidance that you're also speaking about. And also, I think where we generally as professionals, you're seeing that there is a greater stress on working smarter, right? And that is essentially something that's also helping educators, that's helping teachers and teachers assistants and people who are working in the student support functions also, to look at ways in which they can provide these better facilities. And like you're saying, AI bots and AI chat buddies who actually have replaced the peer learner concept, and now you are more and more towards engaging and asking if you have an AI learner who's acting like your peer pop up and give you and provide you group study mechanics. That is essentially something that is as an engagement tool we can pursue to inculcate AI. So it's not all bad. Is that what we're trying to
It's
say?
not, to be honest, because when you look at engagement as well, you have interactive AI tool that we come up with prompt discussions, right, to engage students. So you can talk to an AI chatbot like you were discussing with your classmates, try to understand their own perspectives as well. And this also helps students to, learn concepts from different angles.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think really when we're talking about setting like a culture in organizations, we'll speak about that now. That not only routine or technology focused or tech focused organizations, but there's an expectation that any organization should now be adopting these AI tools, whether it's part of their supply chain mechanics, whether it's part of their operations, whether they're looking at restructuring their HR or finance function, or looking at marketing tools as well to get better insights and as to where should they get the message across. For education specifically, because uh, generally, and this is a global perspective, that there's a lot of prestige linked with the education sector, right? There's always an aspiration. Everybody has an aspiration to go to the best university, to do the best qualification, to go from an undergraduate to a graduate to a PhD, and to a post doctorate qualification. And everybody associates prestige with education. But when we look at AI and how AI is looking at, perhaps at some level, where there is concerns about academic integrity, where the processes are very slack, maybe those institutions would have some areas where they could use AI and use it as a threat. But when we're talking about having those policies, it's a bottom down and a top down approach as well. So the adoption has to come from the top of management of the organization, where everybody adopts AI and provides guidance to people who have to use it. For us, for example, Dr. Claire, and I want your thoughts on it. If you as a teacher are using AI in the right way, then you're able to also cascade that information down to your students, that how can they actually use it to aid. Do you agree with that perspective?
Yes, absolutely. I do agree with that. As educators as well, right, we also have to have guidance into how to use AI. And institutions actually need to put this in place because sometimes we create the content, right? The learning content, we create assessments as well. And we also need guidance from the institutions to know to what extent we can use these resources
Yeah,
because much of the time, as we already discussed, one of the weaknesses of AI is that it could give you misleading information. The information could be inaccurate as well. So there have to be policies that are put in place that surround aspects like misconduct policies, right? To guide the use of AI. We also have like assessment regulations as well that guide how assessments are being done. So institutions have to clarify when the use of AI is permitted on the part of the tutor as well as on the part of the learner, when disclosure is also required. Because nowadays, even to publish research in some journals, you have to include a disclosure statement on how you use AI to go about your research and how it assisted you.
absolutely.
So, yeah. So when you need to, as institutions or as educators, we need to know when to use AI and
Yeah,
how uh, and what aspects of using it constitute as misconduct. And this also comes down to institutional oversight. This has to do with governance policies, where we have, like different stakeholders in the institution, from student representation to the leaders in the institution, down to maybe the IT team, data officers, so these people have to come together as a team to collaborate on developing policies that guide the use of AI in institutions. Also come up with risk assessment as well, because there's also the issue of, data privacy issues and all that.
absolutely. And I put up this question, Dr. Claire, because you started talking about policy, and that is essentially something which is, really, really important. So, Ayan is asking us that how can institutions, educational institutions, shape their AI policy, and how will it affect the grading process and transparency? That's a really good question, because, like you're saying, that transparency is going to come with greater disclosures. If we make it a taboo topic, if we as institutions do not address and do not put, let's say, AI policies in place, and not educate students and learners and teachers as well as to how to use AI effectively, which is to aid their own analytical thinking process, right? Then I think we would be doing something wrong, because either ways, the adoption has to be there. But like you're saying, that it has to be steered in the right direction, it has to be metered, it has to be monitored. And what we are seeing is that those organizations, those institutions that are putting these stringent policies in place, they are actually using it to their benefit. Yes. Yeah. And hence I think this is essentially what answers the question. Now let's talk about transparency, Dr. Claire, because that is also very important. And I think in terms of with AI and with the reporting mechanisms that you are also speaking about, there is greater transparency, isn't it? Because now you can pick AI as well, just like you can use AI, you can pick AI.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. With when it comes to transparency, we have to let students know. For some institutions, for example, they use their own institutional AI platforms, right? That comes with certain restrictions. So when students use this platform, they don't have access to, like certain prompts or coming up with generating an entire report to submit as their own work. So there's usually some restrictions to some of these platforms that students will use. I think this is one of the pathways that institutions are using to go forward. So they might have their personalized or maybe a Copilot or ChatGPT. I haven't explored how that works, but I believe, they encourage students to use these and give, like telling them about the downside of being over reliant on the use of AI. Because at the end of the day, we have learning outcomes that we need to achieve. We have certain skills that we really want these students to build by the end of their lessons. So if we tell them about the disadvantages of being over reliant on AI tools and also provide AI platforms like institutional AI platforms that will guide them on how to use it and also guide ethical use, in fact, that's going to be really helpful.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you, and I'm going to echo what the DFE report also says, that if institutions have their AI risk assessment tools in place already, right, which is to aid institutions, that we can't just ban the use of AI, because that is very short sightedness. We should look at adoption, but then adoption that is essentially something that gives an oversight and an overview and a risk assessment tools, in which that hand holding, that guidance is always there. So the quality of any institution and the regulatory environment has to be something that, the risk assessment has to be done. What do you think about it?
Absolutely. Risk assessment, it's one of the things that we look at, risk and impact. Um, because you find that in modern days, from some of the experiences of people in education or professionals in education, they also use these tools to give feedback to students. And there is a risk of data protection. And are you there?
Yes, yes, I
So there's
am.
all right. So there's the risk of there are also data protection considerations that have to come in place. So what's the lawful basis for processing maybe student personal data? Because when you use these tools to provide feedback, there's that risk of inputting student personal data or personal identifiers into some of these tools. Then we have to think around how this information is processed. So when you put in like personal data on tools, for example, is this
Yeah.
information safe? How is it processed? Where is it stored? So these are some of the risks that we need to assess, because when it comes to data protection, it's one of the most significant legal risks that we have when it comes to the use of AI. So
Wonderful.
Yeah, so there really needs to be like an assessment into how these are used and how it also guides tutors when it comes to like using it to give feedback or using it to analyze students' performance, for example. So there really
Absolutely.
needs to be, yes, policies in place. Data minimization is something that needs to come into place to ensure that only necessary information is shared. Personal data is also anonymized when we try to, use AI for administrative purposes as well.
Absolutely, Dr. Claire. And the reason that I pulled up this particular slide from the research that we are talking about, I'd like to take this question that what do you think the future of AI is in education? This is extremely important. And this is from the research that's been done by the DFE. You can have an access. It is up on the GOV website. So all claims to Department for Education on that. We're just providing a platform to have the discussion. But let me quickly take our audience through the different kind of things that can be done, right? We're talking about school teachers and leaders also, but the same applies to institutions, colleges, higher education colleges as well. So like we said, creating lesson curriculum resources, just planning the curriculum content, communicating, engaging with parents, which is essentially also at a primary school, secondary school level is important. We spoke about delivering lessons during live teaching in the classroom and later as well. Giving feedback or marking, so formative assessments, drafting policy documents. It can help you at least with the initial drafts and refining your drafts, supporting students with special education needs. Then also looking at encouraging peer learning, which is collaborating and sharing resources with other teachers, conducting summative assessment, looking at teacher training, and certain other different areas that the DFE has identified as part of their survey. Now, the two interesting things that I picked up from here, Dr. Claire, and I want your thoughts on it. Um, AI, using it in the education space for teacher training, right? That's an area where we all feel that, there's so much work that needs to be done. How important do you think is teacher training, specifically when we have to train our teachers for generative AI? How can we ensure that? Or do you think that this is important?
Well, I think training teachers for the use of AI, I haven't really had a thought about this, to be honest, because using AI has been more of a self-learning process. Nobody had to teach me how to use AI. But honestly, I haven't had thought
but
around that.
but maybe why we're doing these conversations is to also maybe our analytical thinking is also giving us an idea that that's one area that we could perhaps look at, that how could teachers also look at using AI as part of teacher training processes, and look at ways in which they could blend and what tools to use. On that
Absolutely,
note,
because different tools have their different advantages and strengths as well. So maybe like using Canva, for example, would be different from the way you use ChatGPT. Canva will help you in something else. Maybe Copilot has a different strength when it comes to referencing than ChatGPT. So yeah, I think that could be something that will really benefit tutors because
absolutely,
that's
and
the
I think
primary purpose of guidance for students as well.
absolutely, and when we're speaking about developing learning resources and teaching resources, that's so important. Every teacher has to make some presentations, right? Now you could have super boring presentations and slide deck, or you can actually train an AI, give it your content, and ask it to make a slide deck that's interactive, that has some pictures and videos and some activities. So this is where the tool actually adds in. We have another question. Let's take this one. How can educators balance AI tools with human interaction in the classroom? That's a really good one. So how do we balance it, Dr. Claire,
Yeah,
at
that's a really good question because honestly, AI cannot replace the human factor when it comes to interactive learning. And one of the things is because I'll just give a reasoning before I actually go straight to the question. One of the reasons AI doesn't have emotions, right? AI has no consciousness.
Yeah.
So there is that aspect that is missing. He wouldn't know when the student is demotivated. He wouldn't know when to encourage a student. He wouldn't know how to maybe celebrate, the small wins with students. Because actually, as humans, we want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to, like, feel like we belong to a community. So AI, I don't think will ever replace the human aspect of when it comes to interactive learning. So the advantage with AI is that it helps us to take care of maybe lower level learning outcomes. So when you look at the Bloom taxonomy, for example, the lower level you have like understanding, remembering. So
Yeah.
students could use AI to easily remember things, to easily understand, because AI could explain different concepts or complex concepts using different angles, right, to get a student to understand. But when it comes to critical learning, have building analytical skills and application, this is where we come in. So
Yeah.
AI to enable students to maybe develop content and have the way around maybe drafting reports. But when it comes to critical thinking, this is where the human led factor also comes
Mm-hmm.
in as
Mm-hmm.
tutors to actually guide students into helping them to understand which information is necessary, which is not necessary. Because
Yeah.
just because we can do something doesn't necessarily mean that we should do it. So the
Yeah.
way we use AI has to be regulated. So using AI and human interaction is quite different, because if we focus on using AI only, then they become that isolating factor to
Mm-hmm.
education, which doesn't make it very fulfilling in my.
And also I'm just thinking that imagine a class where you the final group project is a presentation, right?
Mhm.
And the students are being assessed on that. So how are you going to take a presentation and ask an AI to do it for you, right? So the
Or even
human
access a presentation is going to be challenging.
it's going to be challenging, right? So the human aspect is definitely going to be there, and it is how we are going to look at the future of AI adoption as well. On that note, we do have a free pass for AI bootcamp that MCC is offering. So if anybody is interested, we do have some scholarships that are available for any learner who would essentially want to go and learn how generative AI works. So we do have some tickets available. If you just plug into the comments, if you're watching us on LinkedIn or YouTube, then our team would get back in touch with you, or you can just hop on to our website, Magna Carta. .ac.uk, and you'd be able to see it. I'll plug in the website later in as well, but I just thought that because we're talking about training, we're talking about AI so much, so we do have an AI boot camp in which we're offering some free tickets. Just looked at the time and 40 minutes have already passed, so I'll edge towards my last question, which is a more personal one, Dr. Claire. So you and I discussed that, if you and I were to go back 20 years, maybe we're not disclosing our ages, but 20 years back when we were in college and we were in university, how do you think, what has changed essentially from when we were at the university, and how would we have done things differently had we had access to AI tools like we do right now?
Right. When I look at, maybe when I had my degree or my master's, because it was towards the end of my PhD that, AI actually became a thing. So there's quite a lot of striking difference, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
right now, the access to information is unlimited. Students have access to information 247. Back before the advent of AI, how much access you had to information was actually limited. Right? So if you had to do research, that actually involved sitting in the library for long hours, flipping through books, flipping through journals, which is quite different today. And even access to feedback took a longer period than the way it would take now. If a student wanted feedback, AI could give them feedback even before they get to their tutor.
Hmm.
So we could get like, primary feedback before getting a say of what their tutor has to say about their work. But, many years ago, it wasn't like this. And so research meant a lot of hours, or a lot of hours put into work. And the difference now is, okay, instant access to information, you have instant feedback, and the process of learning as well shaped our skill, right, before AI. So during the process of learning, we actually had to learn a lot of patience, a lot of resilience, a lot of persistence, unlike the way it is now. But I'm happy I actually experienced both, because maybe I had developed certain skills before I could have the opportunity to use AI in learning. But now it's actually shaping the way I work as well. So I think, I've experienced both. But if I had access to AI, when I did much of my studies, I think I would still adopt it the same way students are doing now, right? I don't think I would do something differently, because
Yeah.
education also comes with stress. And I believe that AI has actually, helped students in a lot in that aspect. When you look at statistics of some students that have maybe dropped out of school, one of the key factors is actually stress.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
if I had the opportunity, honestly, I would use it the same way students are using now, but maybe in a more guided fashion.
Hmm. Hmm.
Not like, outsourcing my cognitive abilities to an AI tool, but I'll use it to, like, guide me in maybe understanding concepts, or in going on with my assessments, my research as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll also completely echo you on that. That I think something that I do differently personally would be that, as a student, like you're saying, that there's certain levels of stress, there's certain levels of second guessing yourself, there's certain levels of um, just not being too sure about whether your responses are fine or not, are they on the right track or not. So I think I would, had I had AI 20 years ago, I would have just really, accessed it to ensure that I reduce the the constant rethinking of my responses and overthinking. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I came across an educator, right, a tutor who was talking about her experience with her students using AI. So she asked them to keep away their phones and write their experience on their holidays, because they just came back from holiday, like, just write it down as a normal student would. So students actually engaged in the activity. She went around, looking at the type of responses that they had. Then she asked them to go home, type these, print them out, and bring to the lesson, the
Mm-hmm.
next lesson.
Yeah.
And what happened was, a lot of them, without changing it, but a lot of students went and they had to refine this with
Of
AI.
course.
So she
Yeah.
was talking around, the confidence aspect of believing in your own self. That
Hmm.
is so, being, I believe that that's one of the impacts that's had on students. They don't really believe in themselves anymore, that they can come up with something that is concrete and something that is really valid and valuable. So yeah, this is one of the things. So we really need to, like, regulate the way we use AI.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we just have time now to take a final question, which is on the ethical concerns of using AI. I think that is across whether it's offline education or online education,
Mhm.
and we have spoken about developing student contracts. We've spoken about doing risk assessment, putting risk assessment tools in place, having your own policies that need to be there. If you don't have a policy on AI, I think right now is the time where every educational institution should have a policy on AI. Along with providing a guidance, it is also going to structure the way your assessments are being conducted. You could look at different, not only teaching methodologies, but also look at different assessment methodologies as well. Now that the process could be more iterative. Final thoughts and words, Dr. Claire. Is AI here to stay?
AI is here to stay whether we like it or not. Some people still believe that, maybe it shouldn't be used in institutions because of, certain negative aspect of it. But I believe that using it in moderation, that's the right way to go about it. Using it with guidance, like institutional guidance, and also following data protection policies as well is the right way to go. But AI is here to, disrupt how education is done and how we also work as well. So in the work environment, I don't think you will have a boss who will tell you, or a line manager who will tell you that write this report for me and then tell you do not use AI. That's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Even expect you to actually use it to, do work in time and become more efficient. So if we expect our students to be competitive in a world that is, being led by AI or driven by AI, then we have to start from school, and this has to do with our learning, teaching them, these digital skills, how to use AI effectively. And, this will also get them ready for a world where AI is continuously, evolving and changing the way we think and the way we also do things. So I think AI is here to stay and it's the future.
I completely agree with you as well. And on that note, we are now at the end of our today's MCC conversation on the topic of role of AI in education, the AI generative bootcamp that we are open, and our details are all uploaded on the website. This is a generative AI boot camp. I'll quickly take you guys through this so that our audience can see what all covers in this. You can hop on to MCC's newly designed website, and you can take a look at how we have designed this course curriculum. It is of 16 weeks, and this is going to be offered online, 32 session, 2 hours each. You can look at all of the things that we'll be studying, that goes beyond uh, just also looking at the technical side of AI. So for those of you who are technology driven and who want to work from being a novice to a mastery level, feel free to hop onto the website, and you'd be able to see and apply to this generative AI course. On that note, Dr. Claire, thank you so much for taking our time today. I think it has been a wonderful discussion that we have had. Thanks to our audience who joined us live on LinkedIn and on YouTube to listen to the MCC conversation today. You can claim your CPD certificate as part of this learning, so make sure you put it in your CPD logs as well. We would be back very soon with the next webinar. Let me also tell which Dr. Ali Raza Nemti would be hosting from MCC, and that is going to be what's in university. So don't forget, lock in your calendars. It's going to be on 11th March. So make sure that you hop on live for another MCC conversation, and keep joining us for these series. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.